Today we will listen to different confessions. If you have a confession, you can forward it to the account that appears on the screen. Without wasting much time, let's go through my confession. Please listen carefully and you will be surprised to see what happens at the end. Greetings, my name is Emily. I saw it while browsing YouTube. I didn't want to share it without Sarah's permission, but I thought a lot. I will gather my courage and tell you. I didn't ask Sarah's permission, but I hope she won't hear it. I will change her name and her husband's name and tell this confession. Forgive me, but I have to talk to someone now. You know us women, we can't stop gossiping. No one has heard exactly, they know what happened, but I will tell you in full detail. Anyway, without further ado, I will tell you what happened to me and what happened to Sarah. This confession will be a movie, but we went through it and it is completely real. What happened between Michael and me, what happened between Sarah's coworker's husband, it all really happened. I swear to my God and my book, I lived all these things. You will be surprised to hear. My name is Emily. As I said, 2 girls from home grew up and our parents let us go. Sarah was older than me and she was always working. True, our parents had good money, but Sarah also liked to work from childhood and she was making good money at a young age. You can't lie to her too much. Anyway, by the time I was 20 or so, Sarah was already living away from home. After a while I started living with Sarah and we bought a house together and she told me not to pay for the house, come and stay with me. We were making good money then and she taught me a job. Then Sarah found a businessman and said she wanted to marry him. Time passed and they had a wedding. Daniel was very handsome and a very kind person. I can say that I was jealous of Sarah in this regard. Sarah was beautiful too, of course. Anyway, we grew up and our business was growing. Sarah had 2 children, but I guess I didn't get married. Marriage was not for me. I was used to being alone. It drove me crazy that Sarah's marriage was going well. I was getting jealous of Daniel. Their company was doing well, and they had a very luxurious life. But one day everything turned upside down. Their company was closed down by the government and a lot of things were taken away from them. Of course they were not poor again, but they never recovered like before. So the old unrest started. Now Sarah wanted her old life, but unfortunately Daniel couldn't give it to her. Sarah was very fond of luxury and money, but Daniel said that they would recover in time. He was jealous when guests came to Sarah's house because they were old friends. They were all happy that Sarah seemed to be gone. Don't look at their faces laughing, they all want you to be bad. Anyway, Sarah had a female friend from work. That woman used to come and visit them often. She lived a luxurious life, but she was not a bad woman. Anyway, one day she saw Sarah talking to Daniel at home, and she came and told me. She said to Daniel, I love you. If you have time one day, save it for me and all this nonsense. Sarah was not idle in return, and showed me the messages sent by the woman's husband. The man loved Sarah and was texting her every day, but Sarah never replied, but she said, look how I am taking her husband away from her. She started talking to her husband and now she was betraying Daniel. They were getting colder and colder. Daniel wrote to me every time asking me what happened to Sarah and I told him that she was bad at the moment. I consoled him. One time he even came to my house. He was so naive. I think I was getting to like him too. We hugged once and it did me a lot of good. I told him not to cheat on her, but Sarah wouldn't listen. I told her that money doesn't bring happiness. Thank God you don't need anyone. Love your husband, but she wouldn't listen to me. So there was nothing to do anymore. I even saw him video chatting with Sarah at night. I was telling Sarah don't have children, but Sarah wouldn't listen. I didn't understand what Sarah wanted. She wanted him to divorce her, and she had children too. Eventually she made him fall in love with her, and she divorced Daniel and married him. The day she divorced Daniel came to us crying. There was a new love for me and I know it's like a movie, but this is our life. I'm not talking to Sarah right now and I'm fighting with her. The day Daniel came to us, I hugged him to comfort him and that's when it happened. I got pregnant by him and I was carrying his child in my belly and then we got married and Sarah tried to ask me, how could you do this? But you are already divorced and I wish she had married me before. I don't have any greed for money or anything like that. May Allah make Sarah the way He knows. I hear that Sarah is not happy with her husband and that woman curses every day that Sarah took her husband away from her, and now her life was poisoned. I have 2 children now and I'm taking care of Sarah's children. It's okay for me, but Sarah pity the children. At least they won't grow up without a mother and I promise to be a good mother to them. That's our confession. I hope you listen. Greetings, my name is Emily. I didn't want to share my confession, but I wanted to tell you about the last thing my father did to me. I am very angry because my mother was cheated on by my father, and I want to kill him. My hatred for him comes from his betrayal, and I want you to know about it. My father cheated on my mother with a young and a little beautiful, clean Olivia. I don't know how many years I've called this man father. He made my mother very sad. My mom deserves better. I don't really understand what happened. I'm in shock now. If something like this happened to you after my father left, you can write about it. I'm writing because I want to hear your confession. I'm writing to see if there are people among you who have experienced something like this with my father. Maybe I will regret what I'm writing now in the future. But I wanted you to know what that disgraceful man called my father put my mother through. I hope he will listen to this and be ashamed of himself. Anyway, I don't want to talk too much, and I want to tell you my confession from the beginning. My name is Emily, I am 19 years old and I am studying. I want to be a doctor in the future, and I will get married if I find a decent person who is not like my father. I am actually afraid of getting married sometimes because there is a fear that he will cheat on me in the future. I am very afraid of that. What will I do if he betrays me after marriage? I don't want to get divorced and see my child without a father. So for now I will stay single and not get married until I find the right person. This happened a year ago, and it happened when I was 18 years old. Seeing this betrayal by my father broke me. I was depressed for a long time. Now I am recovering and I am starting to come back to life. I was born in a rich family. My mother was a doctor like me. My father was a businessman and he was always running around. I'm telling you, the name of that disgraceful guy is James. I won't forgive him for what he put my mother through, so that he would be ashamed if he watched it. For many years, my parents had hired workers to clean the house because there weren't many of them at home. Sarah was working, but she decided to stop working because she was getting old and her children were taking care of her. She needed a new worker and my mom suggested a few people, but my dad said a woman named Liam. When my mother asked him where he found her, he said, "She works at our work. She works at home in the morning and at work in the evening. She told me she needed money. She won't be able to give me much." I said, "Now I can tell you that you will work here and earn money." My mother didn't object and Liam was going to be in our house from tomorrow. My mother could talk to her on the phone and never see her. She would give her instructions over the phone, and Liam would be there when I was at home. She was a very young woman, 24 years old and not married. She was very beautiful, to tell you the truth, and she looked beautiful even without makeup. But I didn't understand why she was coming here. She didn't have a family, she was self-supporting. I felt sorry for her sometimes and I tried to keep the house clean, but I was naive and I didn't understand why my father hired a young woman. My father had other intentions, but for years I knew my father as an honest man and he is my hero. My father loved my mother and me very much. I was the only child in the house and he took care of me. When I wanted to go somewhere, he would leave his job and take care of me. Family was important to him. But whatever that woman did to my father, she changed a lot and betrayed my mother. My mother loved him very much and was ready to die for him. They were a happy family. Suddenly everything fell apart. Everything changed the moment I caught my father and the cleaning lady Liam together. When I came home from high school, I realized that my father was there. I went in and he was sleeping with my mother in the bedroom. I caught my father and Mrs. Liam on the floor. They were both naked in front of me. My mom, is this woman changed my dad? Maybe she was not as beautiful as him, but she is your only wife, God damn you. I couldn't believe my eyes and I didn't know how my father could do this. How could he betray my mother? I thought maybe it was a mistake. When they saw me, they put some clothes on and he left. I asked Liam what he did and he said it was all my dad's fault. I yelled at him and told him that if I ever saw him with my dad again, it would be bad for him. So that's why she comes to our house every day wearing makeup. The immoral woman. I cried until my mom came home in the evening, and when my dad James came home he acted like nothing had happened and it made me angry. He said it was Liam's fault and begged me not to say anything to my mom. After her begging, I fell for her fake face and didn't say anything to my mom. I didn't want to see Liam or my father James anymore. After a few days, when Liam cleaned the house and went back home, I followed him. My father's car was next to his house and I was shocked when I saw it. My father had promised me it would never happen again, but he had tricked me into thinking I was a child. My mother certainly didn't deserve this. It was a terrible thing to cheat on her with a cleaning lady. My mother loved my father very much, but he didn't deserve that love. After a few minutes of waiting, my father came out of the house. I took a picture of them and he got in the car. I went to the cleaner's house and knocked on the door. When she opened it, I shouted at her and asked, "What are you doing at home?" I said, "Aren't you ashamed? Aren't you afraid to destroy my father's house and his family? What kind of a brazen woman are you?" But she told me that it was all my father's fault. I was very confused now. My father was blaming this woman, but this woman was blaming my father. She said, "What are you doing? You invited me in and I told you what happened. Believe me or don't believe me." But my father dragged her into it and said, "I can't give her up anymore." We met at work and he took me out to dinner. I was naive and thought it was for work, but after dinner he took me to a hotel where we had sex for the first time. He took pictures of me and threatened me to do it again. He had my videos and photos and I was very scared. He said that if I didn't do it, he would publish these photos on the internet. I was scared and I agreed. And as time went on we were together occasionally and he treated me like his wife. I told him that I couldn't give him up. I had gotten pregnant, but after he threatened me to have an abortion, I had the child removed by a doctor. He showed me his old messages with my father, and he had indeed threatened this woman. I didn't want to believe that this person was my father. How could such a monster be my father? I didn't want to see Liam, who had been raising snakes in our bosom for years, at home anymore. But I let him come for a while. I thought a lot about telling my mother for a few days, and finally I realized that it was right for Liam to tell her everything that had happened. Liam told my mom everything he told me. My mom was mad and I was depressed. She got a divorce and now I live with my mom. Dad called us a lot, but Mom didn't want to talk to him. We don't need him and we forgot about him. The two of us are very happy. I don't know what that dirty man called my father is doing now, but if he listens to this I hope he will be ashamed. I don't want to live too much and Liam was going to go to jail for what he did, but he was saved because he had money. They almost took all his money. May God make it worse for him. The poor don't smile anyway, and it happened to Liam and us. I get angry when I talk about him. He's so shameless.